Jeff is a graduate of the college here and has had a really interesting career within emerging businesses that he'll share with you in conversation.
My best experiences were, I told you about the Amazon Prime moment, the kind of capstone moment of across 9 years of leading product development and engineering, getting to this point where we created this massive, it's one of the most important things Amazon ever did, is Prime. And so I felt really, really good about that. It was I reflect on that a lot. And then founding Pelago was a huge moment. I mean, that was a really weird, I remember just feeling super I can't believe people are trusting me with their money to build my dream. That's incredible, and it's where I sort of coined my no whining rule, which is if you're an entrepreneur and you ever feel kind of whiny or feeling sorry for yourself, just get out of being an entrepreneur immediately, because you go through insane amounts of pain in order to realize your dream and your vision. You have to persevere, you have to run through wall after wall after wall, and you get kind of chopped up and cut up, and you become very brutally honest with yourself. Second only to having children and looking at yourself in a mirror every day. The worst moment for me in the whole thing was when people started quitting Pelago. They started basically flipping the bit, and it was my leadership that was at fault. What I learned is that I was essentially unconvincible. And so people on my team didn't feel like they were that they were part of deciding what we were going to do. They felt I was going to tell them what we were going to do. And I didn't. It took me a couple of years to figure that out. I'm embarrassed to say. That's one of the biggest things you have to be able to do as an entrepreneur is reinvent yourself, continually learn and change and adapt yourself. Because I guarantee you, what you are today will not make a successful company.
Talk to us a little, these future entrepreneurs and founders about building the management team. Some of the lessons you've learned about that.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and it's so hard to get this right. So if you guys take away one thing, is be ruthless about the people you work with. I don't mean be mean to them. I mean get incredible people. I'll say that over and over again because people hear it and they don't really live it. They kind of settle. They settle. They're I'm going to interview 5 or 6 different people and I'll take the best one. That's relativistic hiring and it's a disaster. You should be absolute in your hiring. You should have a very rigorous way of evaluating somebody. And if you're interviewing an engineer, you have that person write code and solve problems in front of you.
What kind of advice? What advice would you give these prospective entrepreneurs in terms of core competencies?
This whole thing about if you're going to start a company, you have to go into it with an incredible fortitude. You've got to be. There is great pain. It sounds super sexy on the surface, and there's parts of it that are super sexy, and there's tons of rewarding stuff that happens as an entrepreneur. But there's a lot of pain. You're gonna have an idea, and you'll just not be able to make the idea work. You're gonna have a great idea, and you won't be able to convince anyone it's a great idea. And you've got to be great at that. You've got to be great at telling the story. You've got to simplify. Being a simplifier is one of them. Being a simplifier is massive. You've probably heard Einstein saying about simplify it to find maximum simplicity, but don't go any further, or whatever the phrase was. And that's right. But basically, people are never at risk of oversimplifying. They almost always overcomplicate. And so being the kind of ultimate simplifier, finding the easier path, finding the fast way is really, really valuable. And you want to surround yourself by people like that. So being a simplifier, being a great talent selector. So force yourself to get great at hiring. Just awesome. Don't settle for the first person the first co-founder you come across, your buddy. It's my buddy's really awesome. I really like him. I like hanging out with him. That is not a qualification to start a company with that person. You're going to be spending all your time with that person, and they have to be brilliant. They have to be somebody who blows you away, and has a lot of other. You guys have to be very aligned on the vision, and you've got to be able to trust that person to be able to execute and deliver. So those are some. Being truth-seeking is one I brought up several times. Is a core competency. Being really honest with yourself and admitting things aren't going well, or being or my idea wasn't really that great of an idea. Look for evidence that you're wrong. Try to disprove yourself because your brain will naturally try to prove you're right. Your brain naturally, there's the system 1, system 2 theory of the brain. System 2 tries to make you feel good, and it tries to find confirmatory evidence in the atmosphere around you. Don't allow yourself to be deluded by that.
And what a way to close the class to have this gem with us. One of your colleagues, an alum of this institution, and an incredibly successful entrepreneur. We're grateful to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.